Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division 2 video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have you a 4 versus 4 on Tannenberg, and in this one I'm going to be playing with the new Verteidigungsbereich Toulon. And I'm not the only one. I'm going to be joined by Jagdsource, Musu and Sturmsource, who are also using the Verteidigungsbereich Toulon. And this was a game that was played on stream, but I thought I would re-record it for you guys because it was a really fun one, and I think showed off a lot of the different units available in the division. So I'm going to be showing it off today. We're going to be up against Ku, Stashman, Mr. X, Mr. Y, and Backwards. They are going to be using the 1st DFL, the 3rd Canadian Infantry, the 6th Airborne, and the 2nd Armoured. The 1st Free French there is obviously the other new division available in the Nemesis DLC storming Toulon. But at the start here, Mr. X, Mr. Y coming in with the Pathfinder Mosquito with the Napalm. That, I'm lucky, doesn't napalm the road. I think he probably changed the order mid-flight and therefore it had to do another loop before it actually dropped the napalm. So get away with that. Unfortunately, my 88 at the start here did unload early by accident, so I'm just attack moving that through. But the idea here is I've got these Grenadiers. These Grenadiers have the Breda, so they can actually fire it within the minimum 100 meter range. So I'm going to be using those in the trees here to kind of probe the enemy forces. And I've got a couple of Fusiliers to give me recon information further up with a Boot Besatzung on this right hand side with the 3 MG34s. That's going to be able to engage at range in these wooded areas. So here comes the napalm. It goes for the strike. I actually change my mind as that comes in, and I was pretty lucky because I had these on attack move orders to move up, but then I really realized that I'm up against the 6th Airborne and that fighting close range with Grenadiers is probably not a good idea. So I actually end up deploying all of my Grenadiers into the buildings on the left side here with the Grenfuhrer. And I have a Commandant at the start, so all of these are now 2-star veterancy, which gives them a lot more damage. But this Fusilier getting picked off by the Bren of the AB Scouts. They're doing a runner. But yeah, definitely taking a lot of damage there unnecessarily. That's because I unloaded them in the open and then the Scouts started chipping away at them. I probably could have sat there and tried to fire back, but since he's in heavy cover and I would be in no cover, that wouldn't be ideal. So we've got a flak filling on the way. You can see that all of my AA throughout this game will come in these Lafley trucks. The Lafleys are really nice because they have the 70 km/h road speed and the 35 km/h off-road speed, which actually matches all of the infantry transports you can bring. Usually transports for AA, such as the 88s, are much slower, but the Lafley allows you to bring them in at the same sort of speed and get them up to the front line nice and quickly. Yeah, got an IG placed here. We've got a Pack 36 in the tree line here that's covering this road on the left side of this forested area. I've got an MG42 in this building. This is a really nice building actually for an MG42 because it kind of covers the side of this tree line and over on this road. And I've got an MG42 here. This one's a bit more exposed. Same with this one further back, but this one can jump back a building if it starts to get shot at. And then I've got an IG that's placed in the back garden all the way back here, but that can project its fire all the way over there, all the way over here, and maybe over on this right side a little bit as well, if I need to. But since we're playing Verteidigungsbereich, it's a very defensive division. You can certainly make it offensive, especially if you bring more of the elite infantry earlier on. But ultimately, it struggles to push because it lacks the armor to back up its infantry play. So you have to rely on artillery, and artillery is quite expensive and takes a while to bring in. Either way, you can see how effective my 2-star flak filling is there next to the Commandant as it shoots down the Mosquito that came in to strafe and kill off my Fusilier squad, which was unfortunate. The 88 also managed to get a couple of shots off there, which was surprising considering how deep into the heavy cover it is here. But yeah, more of these Besatzung with the 3 MGs coming in, just spreading these out into different positions around here just to cover off against any infantry that might end up pushing against me, and all the while just bringing in more and more AA, more support weapons, just lots and lots of stuff that helps me defensively on this map. Because in order for me to get up here, it's going to be very, very difficult. So I've kind of taken this right side of the map because in the sort of mid to late game I do have reasonably good and very good infantry that can fight at close range. So we can get through these forests nicely, but being able to control the open is very much based on my artillery, and so that's not until later on, so I'm just kind of being a bit chill here. Now, the Canadian Paras, they're actually running right up to my Besatzung. Now, due to the new minimum 100 meter range, the Besatzung can't engage very well there. So I'm actually having to fall them back and do a runner from that infantry squad, and you'll see this Besatzung squad just continue to have to back off. Really cool uniforms on these guys. But yeah, they're going to have to continue to run away from the Paras there, which can use their Bren at close range to do a lot of damage to my unit. You see they've got the Bren, they've got the 5 Lee-Enfields and the 4 Stens, so they are way better than my units at close range. Although I guess we do have 5 MP40s, but even so, like, I managed to get a little bit of a shot off there onto the Canadian Paras with the MGs briefly, but I'm going to continue to fall back just so that I can dictate that engagement on my by myself. Anyway, the Flak 41 is coming in. That's going to be moving over to the left-hand side here. I was going to put it into the cover, into the trees here, so that we can point it up this road and cover that off. This MD42 currently engaging the AT gun and the Vickers. IG-33 is going to get involved as well. Big old shells this fires. Absolutely blasting that Vickers, and he's going to fall that back. We're going to see it again briefly. IG-33 is going to get another shot off. And I was hoping that that got the kill. Again, still being chased back on the right-hand side. It's fine for now. Just bringing up a Grenadier and a Marine Infantry unit to help me out here, because I need to be able to basically outnumber that unit in order to win that engagement. By the way, meanwhile, Musio's kind of set up on my left here, and he's kind of pushing into the center with the majority of his infantry. His Marine Infantry pushing into backwards here. And I think backwards, his deck, it relies more on half-track and armor play. So this infantry engagement for him isn't really ideal. You don't get great close-range infantry with the French, other than maybe sappers, but even they aren't fantastic. On the far side here, Exhaust, things are pretty quiet on his front, but on the far left side, Stashman's putting up a strong fight against Sturmsource, that priest having a go at the Stug. I think there's also probably a 17-pounder or something in there. Either way, back to my side, not really too much going on. Do manage to get the Marine Infantry into position on this side of the road. It's important that I'm on this side of the road with the Besatzung, because then they can actually use their MG if anything moves forwards. But I've decided to bring in some artillery, finally. And they're going to be brought in with the Schlepper. There it is. Look at that. Really cool transport that's been added to the game. Going to be unloading the artillery there. And these are now going to support any pushes that I make. Canadian Paras coming through though. These Grenadiers don't have the leadership anymore because my Grenadier went over to the left here. I'm going to have to bring in another Grenadier at some point to give these units some veterancy. So that's going to be pretty important. But more Marine Infantry has arrived. And just the sheer numbers here is basically what I'm counting on to help me break through, because they can't use their machine gun within 100 meters range, because it is classed as a light machine gun. The Fusiliers there having a go at the Canadian Paras. Canadian Paras still doing decently. They do have a Willy Pete, which is basically like a Molotov, so it manages to dislodge my units, and then my units take a lot of damage. But here we're going to be able to get the Besatzung into a position to unload with the machine gun, and you can see how much damage they can do very quickly once those can actually fire. So the Marine Infantry here, again, going to take a Willy Pete to the face, going to have to do a runner. I'm going to find some air landing behind that as well. Just trying to get my artillery into the right spots here to help pin these down, and then we can push them out of that right-hand side. Because controlling the right-hand side here is actually quite important, because otherwise what my opponent can eventually do is set up some AT guns here, and that would obviously cut off my spawn road. So that would be really, really awkward for me. So I've got to make sure I have some sort of control here. So having this MG42 here and the Fusilier here allows me to kind of spot things that come up into the edge of the tree line, and then we can strafe it down like we were doing with the AT gun that was pushed further forwards earlier. So here comes the Grenführer, making sure that these have the veterancy they need, and another of the Besatzung with the 3 MGs. Artillery's firing away. Going to start to try and pin down the Canadian Paras here. This is an ideal range engagement for me. So I'm going to bring over the Besatzung to try and get their MGs on target as well. It's going to move that back, but still have the artillery coming in, as you can see. And that's going to land right on target, pin down his unit. Now we're going to try and push him back all the way up into these trees. Meanwhile, Musil still having fun in the center here, dealing with backwards, trying to push forwards with the M8s and the Nueve. Nueve and voltages just not that good. I mean, the voltages are okay these days at close range engagements because it never relied on a machine gun to begin with. So they do have the extra guns to kind of overwhelm units that do rely on MGs, kind of like these Kriegsmarine Landesschützen. Going to be bringing in some aircraft now. Got my off-map aircraft, 138mm off-map. This has been brought in mainly to set up for Phase B, because we are now into Phase B. Been a pretty slow start, trust me. There is a lot more to look forward to in this game. It definitely gets spicy later on. But these two Brandenburger, they're going to go to the right-hand side. These are the elite troops. And then the Brandenburger heading up here as well. And I'm going to drop an emergency barrage. It's going to take a little while to finish off, but basically is going to spread a bunch of shots around here and start pinning down units. And then I can push through with the Brandenburger and finish off whatever's left, or take advantage of the fact that they'll be a little bit pinned, because that artillery won't actually do that much damage unless it direct hits. I've also, of course, got a lot of these Kriegsmarine Marine Infantry coming in, and these guys are going to basically be the backup for the Brandenburger, just the numbers in order to push through. Make sure that my Brandenburger can fall back and reload their HE grenades. I've also got these Grenadiers, of course, still here, so I'm going to start pushing these forwards as the artillery will start to come to an end. And the idea here is just to put on a little bit of pressure, because we haven't really engaged our enemy for the first 10 minutes of the match, and I don't want him to sit back and just amass a huge amount of forces and then push into me. Obviously that's what we're kind of doing as well, but having a little bit of an infantry trade in the forest is good for us, because we can force our opponent to get involved in that. So here come the Marine Infantry. We spread out a line of my infantry. We're going to be pushing forward. So I selected like my Grenadiers. I just pressed Tab and Q in order to do the attack move orders on each of the individual units and get them spaced out nicely. And now we've got the Marine Infantry coming in. The Centaurs here. I think Mr. X, Mr. Y, he fire positioned on the corner here, I'm pretty sure. And that was a really smart move by him, because basically what happens usually is, in this situation, you're gonna be able to get around the corner before a unit can aim and shoot at your transport. But if he's like pre-firing the corner with a fire position order, he can catch one out, and he did manage to there, which was really smart. By the way, here we go with the engagement. I'm going to be absorbing the Willy Pete with the Besatzung and the Grenadiers, and then I'm basically pushing in the Brandenburger afterwards to throw in the HE grenades and get the kills. That's quite simply like the strategy here. On the left hand side things aren't going as well because I didn't really have any Brandenburger here to back them up, but as you can see here, we're dismantling the para squads in the tree lines. So that's working very nicely. And I mean, honestly here, this was actually not too bad. Like, Grenadier versus air landing, that's a relatively even battle. As soon as the Canadian paras get involved, though, that's when you're in trouble. So again here, Besatzung moving forwards and the Grenadiers moving forwards, taking the shots in. from the AB Paras. These AB Paras don't have Willy Pete, so I don't have to worry too much. But I can wait for the Brandenburger to reload and throw their HE, and they've already used up all of their HE, which is pretty big. One on each squad. They get 3 of them, so you can see that, you know, that's a pretty big deal. Getting lots and lots of kills with these Brandenburger over time. Finishing off the Paras as we just completely outnumber them, to be honest. That's the main reason that I was just winning there. But this is quite a risky strategy. Like, having this much infantry together in a tree line like this is just asking to be off-mapped, and luckily I wasn't. At least not yet. AB Paras bumping into 2 Marine infantry and managing to outnumber them. Outnumbering infantry in close range is still effective, but this was really big. Like, catching out a lot of Mr. X, Mr. Y's engineers in the open was massive, and because I managed to get through to the edge of the trees pretty fast here, I managed to pick off quite a lot of these guys before they can get into cover. A couple of them do push through on this right-hand side, and you can see that they are starting to break down a few of my forces here, like the Grenadiers and the Brandenburger that was there. This Brandenburger I should have kept in cover so that it could use its HE grenades better. That was a little bit of a waste of that unit. But being able to pick off a lot of those engineers before they get into cover, super important. Marine infantry does manage to take out CMP Polston. That's a nice kill for me. That's an AA unit that I won't have to deal with in the future. Although, of course, Verteidigungsbereich doesn't really rely on air much. But it just allows me to maybe bring in fighters a lot easier to take out enemy aircraft without having to worry about their AA. So here I'm just running away. I've run out of HE grenades. His infantry is just straight up better than mine due to the TNT, so I'm just doing a runner. I'm trying to get back to a position where I can engage from over 100 meters. Just a tactical retreat here, maybe leaving a few units behind to engage them, the ones that are weaker. Try and get my Grenadier out so that it can maintain veterancy on these units. Managed to push across to the left and clean out that unit, which was good. And this Grenadier is now also doing a runner. They're on our tail. And they are. Now the airborne infantry actually runs pretty fast, so as you can see they're constantly catching up with me. I do decide to bring in some Stugs. The plan with the Stugs was really just to have something that could engage any tanks that came down the road, because whilst I do have like the 88 and the Pak 43, having something a bit more solid would be nice. So Grenadier trying to do a runner here. The Grenadier on the left unfortunately died, but I'm able to get a good off-map placement here. This is a fire for effect barrage as opposed to the emergency barrage that I did before. Stemsource is going to be dropping in a couple of these 138s as well. This one very, very far up though. The one on the right should be fine, but this one on the left takes a lot of shots from the Polston. Somehow manages to get out. The Fusilier does eventually go down here. I think it got hit by the Centaurs. We saw the Fusilier go in there previously and just ended up keeping pounding it with HE until the building blew up. But my infantry eventually die here. He ends up falling back with a lot of his infantry as the off-map comes in, so he's actually recruiting his engineers into the off-map right now, which works out quite nicely for me. But I do lose both of my leaders here. Both the Grenadier go down. So I've decided to bring in some KM Führer to help back things up a bit. The nice thing about the KM Führer is it does have 2 MG34s, so it's actually a pretty good infantry squad on its own. Those AB Paras in that building getting absolutely wrecked by the Flagverling. Like, direct fire on that is insane. And also we got the AB Paras here that have come to the edge of the tree line. They're going to get hit by my AT gun with its HE rounds, and then the MG42 also getting a few squirts of ammunition in there. BF-109's coming in to help out with this AB Para intrusion. Going to be bombing this building and also the squad itself. Didn't really manage to do much damage, but allows me to move up the Besatzung in order to see if there's anything there, and you can see I've brought in some more of these Brandenburger now, which are like just really, really cool. They have very similar uniforms to the Großdeutschland, and yeah, very, very awesome. Going to be pushing in now. Going to have 2 of them on the right hand side, 2 of them on the left. Make sure that my left isn't weaker this time like it was before. Got some of these MEK in. These are cool squads. The suppressed MP40s and the sniper. Very difficult to find a use for the MP40s, because whilst they are suppressed, having them in close, like 100-meter range engagements, really not a good place for them to be, because they're only a 4-man squad. They do have the HE though, so it's not terrible, but it's not great. Here, shouldn't really be trading HE grenades. Thankfully, with a bit of micro, I managed to avoid the damage. That could have gone very badly though, and would have been a complete waste. But we're going to throw another one here. We're going to run away. I'm going to dodge the damage again with that one. You got to time it just right when you do this, because if you do it too soon, then you don't throw your HE grenade, and if you do it too late, then the HE grenade will track where your squad is running, and it will land directly on you regardless. So you basically got to throw it, and as it throws, right-click away, because theirs will go off at the same time. This one like clipped me for a little bit of damage because I didn't keep running in the same direction. But yeah, ultimately we managed to clean up quite a few of these squads here now. Get another HE off there. Gonna press full back as that HE comes in, manage to dodge another bit of damage. That's another way you can do it. If you're taking a little bit of too much suppression, you can click the fallback button just as the HE comes in, and usually your men will outrun where the grenade's going to land. So, just a few small tips there for infantry combat to help you out in the close range. Managed to trade really, really well with Mr. Y's infantry there, which was great for us. The Brandenburger then take out air landing on this side. These air landing squads just no match really for multiple MGs and rifles. They are small squads. Good support infantry for the other infantry that you can get as the 6th Airborne. But ultimately, yeah, Brandenburg are just way better. So now we're seeing a lot of smoke come in. A bunch of smoke rounds drop in. So I'm kind of assuming that there's going to be some sort of attack. So I'm backing up the Stugs because... But I don't want to back them up too much. The thing is with this smoke play is obviously something's going to be coming. I would usually suspect infantry kind of rushing down the road. So I'm not really pulling back the Stugs too much, just in case I want to drive forward through the smoke and start engaging whatever's coming down the road. But then I realise it's a bunch of Little Johns. So these Little Johns, excuse me, these Little Johns, they have a lot of penetration at short range. And so you can see that Stug just got absolutely annihilated very, very quickly. It forces me to unload all of my Marrow squads early as well. Since we have now moved into Phase C, I've brought in a bunch of these Marrow squads. Well, these Marrow squads, they are Italian elite infantry. They have 12 submachine guns, these Berettas, and the Molotovs. Very, very strong squads. My Stug's here in a little bit of trouble. More smoke coming in though, allowing Mr. X, Mr. Y to push forwards further with these Little Johns. I'm going to try and arty them a little bit, but another Stug is... well, actually, I think I got both of these Stugs out. I pushed one to the left. This one's just reversing up the road. Mr. X, Mr. Y is going to start backing off as the smoke's starting to clear. I got a 105 on the way, another Flak 38. But here go the Marrow squads. Look how quickly these kill infantry. Like, so 12-man SMG squads like the Morskaya Avtos, super, super strong. But now you've got a 12-man SMG squad that has a Molotov with it. So what ends up happening is the Molotov gets thrown at the enemy unit, and then the enemy unit moves because it's on fire, and then the DPS that you're doing from your gun is increased massively because your opponent loses their entrenchment bonus. So yeah, really, really good units. I've got the Kampfjäger here as well that's going to follow them up, give them 3-star veterancy as well. So the accuracy on these SMGs goes way high, like crazy high. 3-star veterancy, you're looking at like 80% accuracy on the SMGs. Just melt the AB Paras, and these can't do anything because the AB Paras, they don't have the Willy Pete, so they can't do the same thing that I'm doing to them. The Molotovs, like the Willy Pete would do the same thing as Molotovs, so I would be forced to move as well. But since I'm stationary and he's moving, I feel like he's forced to move. Basically, I have entrenchment, he doesn't, and we get loads of damage in. So absolutely just cleared out the trees there with the Maro very, very fast. Besatzung now being engaged by multiple air landing on the right hand side. When it outnumbered that much by LMGs, or I guess in this case they're classed as assault rifles, or I can't remember what it's, automatic rifle. Yeah, they do still do a lot of damage. Like even if it is like a Brandenburger here. As long as I can kind of like dictate how many squads I'm engaging at once, we can still do okay. So I managed to clip some of these ones on the right here, and they are quite pinned already, so that's working out quite nicely for me. Managed to clean up the MG on the left side there. Continuing these engagements. Mosquito again trying to come in with a napalm run, but now with these 88s back here, we're doing a lot of damage. Air landing coming in on the top. AB engineers get taken out by the Maro. Just check how fast we kill these. It is ridiculous how good these are when they have their veterancy. Just absolutely deleted. Yeah, the 105 and the 88 doing its job. This is the big boy. With the 105, you can tell by the shape of the barrel. And then you got the 88 here. Very cool. So the 105, such a beast of a unit, has 12 AP shells, which isn't very many. Especially considering it can fire all of those in 1 minute. But 205mm penetration with 40% accuracy, pretty damn nice. But as I was briefly mentioning earlier, I wasn't getting off-mapped. Well, I am now. And because it's happening in Phase C, I know there's going to be about 6 strikes. Because this is the 340mm off-map. And you can get a maximum of 2 of them in Phase C, due to the nerfs to off-map a little while back. So I know that I'm expected to deal with 6 strikes of off-map throughout this game. So what I have to do here to really deal with off-map is kind of leave something in position that makes it look like there's more than there is, and then push in as soon as it ends, assuming that the opponent is also pushing in after the off-map ends, because usually what you do is you off-map an area and then you push into that area afterwards. That's the best way to use off-map, because all of the stuff you're going to be fighting against is going to be pinned down. In this case, he's just absolutely destroying everything in this tree line. Both of my Mallow squads go down there, unfortunately, but a lot of the other stuff is still relatively healthy, considering the size of the shells coming down. The large caliber artillery, like off-map, isn't actually that good, mainly because the dispersion is quite large between the shells, and you only get like 16 shells per barrage. So yeah, they tend to miss quite a lot. If they hit, they just demolish things, but if they miss, then obviously, you know, they miss. Even if they're relatively close, they still don't really do much damage though. Anyway, the air landing on the right hand side, we're managing to get the better of it again. I'm smoking off my Gunführer here so that I can get closer to the commander and give these guys extra veterancy whilst they're engaging. That's what that little play is there. And also it allows me to get it into this tree line to give extra veterancy to the ones further up that aren't currently covered by the Gunführer. Although the Brandenburger do come in with 2 base vets, so they're pretty decent regardless. But I'm still running around with the Marrow squads up here. We're just absolutely cleaning house against all of this infantry. Doing loads and loads of damage. Like, this division really shuts down the 6th Airborne big time. And whilst I was streaming and playing this game, people were saying like how this would be great in 1v1 against the 6th Airborne. So this might actually be a division that we see as a counterpick to 6th Airborne in like future tournaments and so on. Especially if I'm like covering the finals of the Steel Division League or something like that again. We might end up actually seeing the Verteidigungsbereich, because you do have this really strong close-range infantry that can clean house against the 6th Airborne infantry. Also, all of your AA shuts down the aircraft of the 6th Airborne at the same time, so it's really quite big. We got a DB though coming in, DB-73 from the French player, the 2nd Armoured player. That's going to go straight towards my 88s and 105 and the Flakverling. I managed to time an ME-109 G6U4 on it as well. We managed to shoot that down. Those are quite resilient bombers. I was lucky that my BF-109 managed to pull out of range of the AA as I shot that down. Now, one thing that has been happening, I haven't really been showing you guys, as this has been going on, we moved into Phase C, and I've been starting to spend a lot of my points on the good old ML-20s. So these were all hidden in the forest back here, with the multis on the roads. I've just kind of deployed them all on this road, which is in between the 2 spawn road areas, so that the spawn road itself doesn't get artillery on it, but these guys should be, far enough away so that it doesn't really affect reinforcements coming in. That's super important, by the way. Don't really deploy on the roads that are used to reinforce, because otherwise people will counter battery you, it will hit your reinforcements as they're coming in and make them unload early, especially if they're infantry. It's going to be really, really annoying. So these Besatzung, they are going to show themselves briefly. We spot a load of Little Johns. There's a load of army here. You can see the Mr. X, Mr. Y is building up loads of Cromwells and the Centaurs. But I'm going to be bringing in some artillery onto all of that now. You can see I've put down that artillery there, just to help us out over on this side. Got another MEK coming up. And I've got this MEK now pushing through as well. I was kind of waiting for the rest of the off-map to finish here so that I could get some recon to the edge of the tree line that could be hidden, and then we can try and see and RT things that are in my way. Because RT is going to be the main way that I deal with things in the open. So over here I did realise that my Murrow squad actually ran out completely of Beretta ammunition and the Molotovs, so that squad managed to stay alive long enough and kill enough squads and enough people that actually ran out of ammo completely, which is ridiculous. So I'm trying to get them out of there, bump into some air landing with my other squad nearby in the meantime, but absolutely demolish them, so that saves them for the time being. We have the Brandenburger there, of course, that can probably be moved up and help out. These air landing, again, really aren't that great at close range. They managed to kill them off quite easily. Kind of between a rock and a hard place there with that Marrow. Look at all this armour. Got to somehow break that down. Still got artillery coming in onto this area. Jagdsor's going to bring in the 138mm off map. This Marrow's still killing off units though. There goes the air landing. We managed to clean out a bunch of infantry again, even this unit having no ammo. Just that one Marrow squad absolutely carried me there. And the Brandenburger, of course. Now, the reason we're ahead at the moment is we have the 13 to 11 in the middle. Musier's been doing a fantastic job of keeping control of this against Backwards. And unfortunately for Backwards, because he is playing Vanguard, we're in Phase C, he has a massive disparity in income. He's on 90 income versus Musier's 155. So it's a very, very tough position for him to be in. It's very difficult for him to push onto this tree line with any form of infantry because the 2nd Armour just doesn't really get enough decent close-range infantry to clear this out. It relies a lot on this armour, like the M4s. So this is a tough matchup for him, for sure. In that terrain, at least. More off-map coming down. Goodbye to my Besatzung. Marrow taking hits there, and Brandenburger hit nearby. Takes that down to 1 health as well. So now I just got Citadungs. These Maro have some ammo left, so just sending them up to help out. We're just keeping it chill. I need to figure out a way, again, to clean out all of this armor in the open. So I've decided that I might try and get some AT guns through the heavy cover here, since we do have control over the close range engagement. So yeah, we're going to be bringing in the AT guns. We're going to push them through, and the idea is to like breach them through the tree line at the same time, and then kill as many armored cars and stuff as I can, as quickly as can, before the enemy artillery comes in. Because as you can see, we are getting RT'd, but I now have 8 of these ML20s, and we can see where they're firing from. I'm just adjusting it a little bit. I'm going to be firing away very, very shortly with all of this artillery. Big old guns these are, that are actually pretty damn accurate as well. Another off-map coming in there, taking out another couple squads. This is the second off-map vehicle now, because we've had the 3 off-map strikes from before. That's another 2 off-map strikes from that one. So I think we got like 2 more left on that artillery piece. Here go my artillery. Big old shots, and we can absolutely demolish this area. And with the Verteidigungsbereich Toulon, you really do get a ton of artillery if you want it. And these 152s, they can all be brought in with the multi-ammunition trucks, which is fantastic. But I'm able here to really, really shut down enemy artillery, and you'll see that if I go across the map at the back here, our entire team is like relying on just tons and tons of artillery. It's actually ridiculous. So here there's actually the Italian gun, the SFH 404, and then there is the SFH 100, the Yugoslavian one, whereas I'm using the 152s, of course, and also the Gebs, the Italian shorter range howitzer. So yeah, there's so much variance of the artillery that you choose to bring in. In this case, Monsieur's using both the ML20s and the 404s. So just so much artillery that's able to pound the enemy as they push forwards. Really, really like a massive defensive line for us with all this artillery, and here you can see the counter battery coming in just to shut down enemy artillery play. Again, super important, so that we maintain artillery superiority, because it is the only thing that this division can really do well and use well to destroy things in the open. So, Grenadiers coming in. These Grenadiers, these Belgian Grenadiers, they're actually really good. They definitely outclass other line infantry in close combat, but not Maro. So the Maro there, again, just going in, destroying those very easily. Here my Stug and my 88 just melting Cromwells. Mr. X, Mr. Y tries to make a push through here, but falls right into an AT trap and loses a few of his tanks before deciding to fall back. So I think I end up killing like 4 Cromwells there in the end. But loads of infantry now coming in. These Grenadiers are scary, but if I'm able to kind of pick off these squads one by one, the Maro should do very well. And here, and a beautiful shot comes in from the IG-33 back here, and pins down all of those units. And I managed to surrender the rest. Really, really nice. Cleaned out a lot of his infantry availability there with that surrender and kill. Got a bunch of Maro and Citadungs kind of sitting over here. I was waiting to make a play into the heavy cover on this right hand side, because whilst I do control these tree lines at the moment on the left hand side, I also kind of need to control the ones on the right if I want to stop AT guns pointing down my road, and also if I want to be able to see what's in this area, because at the moment I'm completely blind. Unfortunately, these Maro, they're going to get surrendered. Too many grenadiers there for that squad. This one manages to get the better of another grenadier though. And my AT plan has kind of gone down the sink. You know, I can't really move forwards my AT if I don't have any infantry in the heavy cover here to come to well, help him out. Black Swilling going to open up on the poor grenadiers there. 2-star. Doesn't do that much damage against infantry in heavy cover. My Maro take a big hit though. That was a bit of a miss micro for me, allowing them to get to the edge of the tree line. They should never ever be able to see past 100 meters. It's just complete waste. But with the smoke coming in, he's trying to smoke off all of my support weapons back here and make a big push. Mr. X, Mr. Y coming in with his Daimler Little Johns, his Challengers, the Centaurs. But I got 4 Focke-Wulf with Panzerblitz rockets on hand. Going to do a lot of damage there into that convoy. Managed to catch some of the Little Johns as well as the bigger Challenger tanks. I make sure to take those out. This Stug does its best to hold its ground but gets taken out. My Pack 43 is a little bit too far back to really engage here. Should have had that further forwards. But here comes the BF-109. It's going to be bombing the 2 on the left and right and then strafing the one in the middle just to keep them going backwards. 88 does unfortunately get killed here just by the sheer amount of Centaurs and Cromwells there are. But the Stug on the left had line of sight all the way through and was helping out. I also had this 88 that was pushing in there. Now we've got the bombing strike coming in from Q as well. But of course we do have a lot of AA as we are Verteidigungsbereich Toulon. Wildcats versus the ME-109s. We've got those coming in. All of the Marauders. These Marauders are super scary to deal with. If you get too close to them with your BF-109s, they do get shot down. So, yeah, got to be super careful there. But managed to force quite a lot of them off before they did too much damage. On the right-hand side here, a lot of my Maro and so on just get absolutely demolished by the infantry push after the bombing strike, so that was a bit tough, but we didn't really lose too much further back thanks to the Flak-Zwilling, the 88, the 105. So yeah, managed to just shut down that play a little bit and force back a lot of this armour that was pushing quite far up. So the 2 Cromwells here getting attacked from the left-hand side. These Challengers and all this stuff just getting rocketed. And that's bailed out now. And of course the stuff in the open is going to get finished off there by the 105. Gotta love that sound when it goes boom and just like wipes out a tank. So Malo there managing to get one of their Molotovs off, which really helped this Malo get a kill. Pretty low on numbers now though. On the left side maybe not so much. 7 men's enough. That one's going to do a runner though. So now more off map coming down. Goes straight into my poor AT. Both of them just get destroyed. My AT options, well, the idea of using my AT, they're completely out the window now. My Commandant also gets smacked by that off map as well. That's important to point out. I had moved it forward slightly to jump into one of these buildings, and just a stray shot. Look how concentrated that was, and just one shot comes over here and just snipes my Commandant. It was really unfortunate. One on the right hand pushing forward to these Maro now, and the KM Pioneer and the Citerungs that I had stashed up here that were going to push forwards. MEK also trying to help out with the sniper onto the AB Paras. I got the Pack 43 here on the edge that manages to snipe one of the Cromwells. So we managed to stop the push for the time being. It was a nice try by Mr. X, Mr. Y, but the crossfire from the left-hand side I don't think he was prepared for, so I managed to, you know, stop that push in its tracks. Otherwise it probably would have got quite far up, and my teammates seeing that it was happening did also back me up, so that was handy as well. But we still got the advantage in the middle with the 1 flag here. Elsewhere, you know, it's kind of just a stalemate for me. I'm trying to use my artillery to break down the infantry opposite me so I can continue to push back forwards. But it's always very slow. Like when you're doing infantry artillery play like this, it is always quite slow. And it's also quite precarious, as all this artillery comes over and One of them smacks right into my own infantry there, and I actually end up killing quite a lot of my own dudes from those mana squads, which was really, really bad. It does happen to the best of us, that's for sure. Yeah, these poor mana squads are going to have fallen back before they get annihilated, but yeah, too bad. Off map comes in anyway. Right, on cue, and that leaves me with a 1-man and 3-man mana squad. Not ideal. So here what I ended up doing is I actually pulled these out of the building, because when they're in the building they can be direct fired by the tanks that were coming up this road. So I actually just deployed them slightly behind the building. Then they're out of line of sight of this area, but they can see the stuff on the right still, and engage it with their sniper. So I'm just going to be following up Jagdsorce's Grenadiers here. Use the Malos to support them. Just chew up these para squads very, very quickly indeed. It's just such a potent combo. The 12 SMGs and the Molotov. It's just so ridiculously good. And the fact that these cost like 30 points, I feel like they're definitely going to get nerfed in the future. Like, they should probably be like 35 points with how good they are. I've got more artillery coming in. You can see I brought in all 6 of my 105s, because I found myself in this game kind of floating points quite a bit, because it was quite hard to determine how I wanted to push. You can see I'm placing down my 152 orders again. The way that I'm doing that, for anyone who's wondering, I already kind of mentioned it in this game, but if you select all of them by double clicking, you can then press tab to select through the bottom of them, and you can do it in the replay as well, like this. I can scroll through to see, you know, what they're doing, how much ammo each of them have, etc. But you can also give orders to them as you scroll through when you're actually playing the game. There's definitely something to know, something that's useful to know, so you can spread artillery fire like that very, very fast. And this poor Mallow on his own. Gonna try and run forward there. Gets killed off. Didn't really have anywhere to go. I could have tried to run away, but wasn't really much point. Probably was going to get taken out anyway. Got a couple more of these 105s on the way into the front. After seeing the big old bombing strike that we came up against, I made sure to reinforce my artillery, or my AA line. I'm constantly trying to get my artillery in the right place to help with these infantry engagements, but it's quite difficult because Mr. X, Mr. Y, he was being very mobile with his infantry, and that makes it difficult to pin them down. Here come more infantry. The Marrow here, able to do quite a bit of damage to these squads. The Grenadiers having to do a runner. Unfortunately, I do just get a little bit overrun. There's just a lot of units there. It really wasn't ideal. Artillery coming in hot. Just trying to sort out a way to try and pin down these squads. So I'm even going as far as to target my own squad so that when I retreat, he pulls his units forwards and they end up getting hit by that artillery. This unit I'm trying to fall back. Unfortunately it runs out into the open and dies. This unit does get a Molotov off, but gets pinned down very fast by the sheer number of forces there are there. So I've now lost control, once again, of the heavy cover. But here come the shots onto the AB Paras on this right hand side. Just trying to keep the Sistrungs out of combat for the time being so that I can use it to surrender them as the artillery shells come in. On the edge of the tree line here, managing to get more shots in with the IG-33, which was really nice. Gonna pop that AB Para. But there come the shots, pinned down the AB Paras, but Mr. X, Mr. Y is on form. Retreats them in time. No surrenders for me. Yeah, Mr. X, Mr. Y is making it very, very difficult for me to to surrender his infantry. I'm just going to have to try and blast them to pieces. So you can see I'm bringing in more of the 152mm artillery fire onto that tree line again. In the centre, backwards, trying to push forwards with the help of Stashman now. Seal holding the line though. He's got his own Marrow squads set up with the extra vet on those. Very, very difficult to push out. These M8s did manage to break through, but straight into the AA line. And with that push, unfortunately, not going too well, backwards is going to surrender the game. And, well, with the Vanguard deployment type, it is difficult to continue the push into the late game, so it's understandable. Flashman managing to break through with a few of these kangaroos, but again, straight into the AT line. This is the thing that's crazy about this division. It's a very defensive division because a lot of its AA is also strong against ground targets. So you can't really hit it with aircraft very well. You saw the Spitfires there just get forced back almost immediately. And then, if you want to push on the ground, you've got to deal with all of the 88s and stuff. So the only way you can deal with it is with artillery. But what do you know? Verteidigungsbereich Toulon has more artillery than you. So all of your artillery that you're using to try and shut down the AA is just going to get counter-batteried. And so the Verteidigungsbereich can sit in position very, very well. And that's exactly what's been happening the whole game. We're just able to sit here, absorb his pushes, and then push back as much as I can. Now, the pushes in Verteidigungsbereich are so dependent on their infantry. So, like, I reckon you could get away with it a lot better in the early game if you had, like, a lot of your elite infantry just to quickly kill, like, a lot of enemy infantry, and then sort of use the early game AT guns that you have to maybe ambush a few tanks and then grab ground that way. But in the late game, obviously, it's very dependent on your artillery landing shots, sort of paving the way for your infantry to move forwards. My Citadels here struggling to deal with the AB Paras. I'm going to have to bring in more Marrow. I think at this point I had like 6 Marrow squads left, so I was kind of trying to be quite conservative with them. Because obviously you only get so many of them. We got the Pack 43 firing away again. It's another push coming in from Mr. X, Mr. Y. The 105 firing away. Takes out the CMP Polston. MEK squad goes down in the open, unfortunately. And the Polstons start ripping up some of my Citadels there as well. AB Paras do move forwards onto my KM Führer. KM Führer is decent at this range though with the MG34. Trying to get these Marrow up though. I did bring in a bunch of Focke-Wulfs. The smoke, however, managed to block off any line of sight I had onto these units, because this Grenadier can't see them. There is like a slight little bit of tree line here that blocks line of sight from the left side. So that was what was causing me issues, and I had the Citadel on the right hand side, but I couldn't really move them because they were pinned down, so that was a bit rough. But these Marrow, they do manage to deal with all of the AB Paras. I do manage to get some rockets off, and if not rockets, more strafing runs, so I managed to push back the CMP Polstons at least. But at the moment, yeah, pretty desperate defense here, just trying to make sure that I pop as much stuff as I can. These 105s are so damn good. They just one-shot everything. And the reason that happens is because they do actually have 10 damage. Citadels there, using Granatbuchse, try and take out the Little John. But we've got the 88 and the Stug 3 on the left now that are engaging the Challenger. And the Cromwells that are pushing in here. Centaur goes down. Cromwell's pinned. And both of those are going to get popped as well. Just absolutely blasting them with these 105s. Black Zwilling even going to open up here. Onto the Centaur. Whilst the Centaur does get a shot off, it's not enough. The IG-33, I think, claimed the kill with the heat round there. And have managed to make up some more ground on the right-hand side in the meantime. So yeah, absorbed another big armor push there from Mr. X, Mr. Y. Really sort of like a last-ditch effort from him to try and take some ground, because things were just a stalemate for so long. He built up all his armor and just tried to make a big play through. Unfortunately, just couldn't make it happen. And the big trouble is like, as you can see, he used some of his artillery, a lot of his smoke, to basically try and like cover off the support guns that I have. But the way he did it is like he saved up his arty and then used the smoke, because if he tried to use the arty as arty, it would have got counter battery before he made the push. So he was in a really, really big predicament for like a lot of the time that we were playing, like the whole game basically. My Focke-Wulf here, it's going for the Mosquito. I'm going to try and shoot that down with the Focke-Wulf. It's a bit of a silly idea really. But these two Focke-Wulfs were just left in the sky after that push, and they hadn't used up their rockets, so they end up following that Mosquito into an engagement with Ku and his Spitfires, which was obviously not great. But yeah, now Mr. X, Mr. Y, he does call it a day. After that last push, it was his last-ditch attempt to try and break through our defences and gain some ground. But we managed to hold him back, which was really good. I wanted to have these Focke-Wulf 190s continue the engagement with the Spitfires, but unfortunately they ran out of fuel, so that's why they randomly evac there. That wasn't my miss micro or anything, that was just them running out. We managed to take out one of the Spitfires in reply, but Q brings in a really well-timed Spitfire here that does manage to kill off a couple of my BF-109s. So yeah, nicely done there by Q, just to pick those off. Didn't get that past him. Do manage to get like a lot of my 105s to engage the Spitfire though. Big old shots coming in there onto that aircraft. So shots coming in on the left-hand side here. The AI just decided to throw a bunch of like half-tracks and stuff in on this side, which wasn't really something I was prepared for. As you can see, I don't really have any defences here. So I'm bringing a 105, and the idea of that is just to sit on the crossroad here and just kill any of these vehicles that are pushing up. But that M5A1, although it does get the flag here briefly, ends up falling into line of sight of the 88 and the Stug, so that's going to get popped. And the infantry that's unloading, well, that's right in line of sight of this 105, so going to take a lot of direct fire HE. Down they go very quickly. Maro's still doing tons of damage here. Mosquito tries to come in from the AI, but that's it. Stashman surrenders. I believe Ku might have surrendered around the same time actually as Mr. X, Mr. Y, because I didn't really see him surrender during the game. But yeah, those Spitfires were really bad for my BF-109s, that's for sure. 57 minutes, 22 seconds. We take the victory. Basically in the end, because it was like a stalemate and we had the massive artillery advantage, we would eventually win. Regardless, it just might take a while. So our opponents, knowing that that's the case, decided to step down, which, no props to them. They put up a good fight, that's for sure. In the end, 6,044 kills to 3,100 losses. The Mara and the Brandenburger did so much work. We managed to absorb a lot of pushes, but it's really difficult to push with this division. Like, it's very, very defensive, which is the only reason that I think it might not be used in 1v1, unless you're playing specifically against the 6th. But yeah, Flakverling getting nice kills there. Brandenburger, multiple Canadian paras, AB scouts. My Marine infantry actually did okay. But again, Brandenburger, this is sort of like the early game, sort of like, well, I say early game, it's like Phase B infantry, and then Phase C, I bring in the Maro. And the Maro going like 4 for 1. It's like pretty much big, like, Pioneer levels of damage. It's insane. And you have so many of them. My Stug did well there to kill quite a lot of the stuff. And this IG got some really good hits in throughout the game on the edge of that tree line. Focke-Wulf, lovely rocket strikes coming in on that sort of convoy of armor that was attacking us. But ultimately the 105s and the 88s did so much damage in this game to the armor pushes, because I had like enough of them that I was attacking him from multiple directions, and the smoke just couldn't cover them all, pretty much. So it was a nice attempt by him to keep pushing in, but yeah, just too many different angles for him to have to watch out for in the end. And yeah, the 105s and 88s basically just killed more ground targets than air targets in the end, with the Flakvilling and the Flakvilling taking out the aircraft for us. So there you go. That was a look at the Verteidigungsbereich Toulon in-game. I'm probably going to bring out another video in the future with the defences, because they do have their unique Panzerturms with the like S35 turrets and so on. So I'm probably going to do a breakthrough game with these guys at some point and bring that to you guys. But for now, that is it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. Very big slog there. Loads of artillery. Very much defensive for most of the game, just bleeding our enemy until we can take the win. That's pretty much what it was. So yeah, that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.